Now, I request Ms. Rahana Ravinder, student representative, to introduce the honorable speaker.
I am profoundly delighted to take an opportunity to introduce Dr. Sripathi Kamath. He has completed MBBS from Yenapoya Medical College and MS in Ophthalmology from St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. He is known for his work in the field of retina. He has done fellowship in retina and vitreous from L.V. Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad. He was the gold medalist at Yenapoya Medical College and St. John's Medical College during his studies. Currently, he is a consultant of vitreoretinal surgeon and diabetic retinopathy specialist at his own clinic, Netra Jyoti Retina Center, Mangalore. Now, I hand over the mic to you, sir.
Good morning once again. I have chosen this particular topic because this is very relevant for people who are practicing this particular specialty. Prescribing pearls for a spectacle, whether it is an art or a science. I would say it is a combination of both. It is a combination of an art as well as a science. As you understand it, initially you may think that it is more like an art. You prescribe more and more, you understand the science of it, and at the same time, after a point, you also feel that the science is also fading away and it becomes more like an art. So it is a combination of an art and a science. The world's best scientist himself says the finest scientists are artists. As you see in this particular photograph, Albert Einstein said, world's finest scientists are the artists. They are the inspiration for science. Let me start, before prescribing a glass or before prescribing or doing a subjective refraction and giving a glass, what are the qualities of a good optometrist? In our country, unlike any other country outside states or anywhere, predominantly an optometrist is seen with a lot of respect. But in our country, the optometrist does not get the due respect. Why? Can I have the answers from the crowd? Why the optometrist does not get the due respect whatever he is required to get? I told Dr. Ganapathy that I will speak on the qualities of a good optometrist to bring up this particular specialty rather than talking more of science. Science is there in the books. You can read it. If you want, you can practice it. But these qualities, which have to be at least told to you once so that you can incorporate it. What are the qualities of a good optometrist? We look into three important categories. One, knowledge. Second, attitude. And third one is the communication of the optometrist. An optometrist, whenever he comes to the clinic or whenever he comes to an institution, the external behavior of the person is also equally important. Like what is being told in the school, put a proper uniform, wear a tie, polished shoes, belt, good chudidar, cover yourself well. You need not look beautiful. You have to appear at least smarter. The appearance of a person, appearance of an optometrist is very important because he is the first person who comes into contact with the patient. In any clinic or any hospital, eye hospital, the first person whom the patient would share his problem is an optometrist. He becomes a very important role in gathering the information. Whatever information he wants to give to the doctor, he may not give it to the doctor directly. He will share most of the information with the optometrist, provided the optometrist appears reasonable. Reasonable in the sense, well dressed. Important, language. Every optometry course should have an important language course. They should understand English and communicate in English, particularly for patients who can understand English, because in our country, English is a very important mode of communication most of the times, apart from the regional languages like Kannada or Tulu in our place. So language and the communication skill with the relation to the language is the most important thing which each one of you should develop. You should see how to improvise your English language so that you can communicate with the next person better. Your scientific knowledge can be minimal. I tell you, your scientific knowledge can be extremely minimal, but your English communication skill should be good so that you can collect the maximum information from the patient. The optometrist in my clinic is been trained in such a way that he gives me the maximum information about the patient. We have certain categories for the benefit of whatever. Like when a patient enters, he slowly comes to my chamber and says, "Sir, category C patient." So he's a Chore patient. Because for me, in the 5 minutes of time what I spend with him, I may not be able to identify that. I may book him for a surgery, I may take him for giving him a glasses, or I may not spend enough time with him. But the moment he says he's a category C patient, then I am on my guards. I give him the maximum importance so that he at least is taken care of well. So the initial maximum information is given by the optometrist, provided the optometrist is good. Looking at the quality of the optometrist, the patient decides what is the nature of the ophthalmologist. Look at the way it is. If the optometrist's knowledge is poor, he assumes that the ophthalmologist's knowledge is also poor. An optometrist does a good refraction, then the ophthalmologist can just overlook that particular refraction. Though the optometrist may be a better refractionist, can just overlook that particular refraction and give the prescription. The patient will get enough confidence. Use maximum gadgets also. There are a lot of gadgets, simple gadgets. Carry them. How many of you have a mobile phone? How many of you have a mobile phone? The entire class has a mobile phone. How many of you have a retinoscope? How many? Working retinoscope? How many of you use a retinoscope? It is important, as Dr. Kishore, Mr. Anil sir said, shining a simple light into the eye, okay, shows the professionalism with the patient. Not only it gives the information, it gives tremendous information. It can identify a refractive error, media opacity, tumors in the retina, tumors inside the eye, squint. It can also identify some amount of amblyopia, the nature of the cataract. So many information it can give. Apart from that, it shows that you are doing something with the patient other than doing just pressing couple of buttons. So it gives you a lot of information apart from showing some amount of professionalism. Do a duochrome test, do a kind of astigmatic fan test, learn the principles of the test and do it, learn and redo it and re-emphasize it so that you don't forget it. Doing this, use a Jackson's cross cylinder. Initially it may be very confusing, but there are people who come and tell, sir, idu test yaru madlilla ishtra tanaka, idu enta hosa test. Jackson's cross cylinder is as old as the refraction. And it's a very finest way of identifying the smaller cylindrical power as well as the axis, refining the axis. Use it in your OPD. That shows professionalism. Carry a near vision chart, carry an occluder, carry a fixation target. These are your tools. How can a carpenter become a good carpenter unless he has his tools? Carry your tools, show your professionalism, use it. That's when the patient will give you the respect whatever is due. Optometry is the only field where, apart from treatment, most of the medical field can be replaced by an ophthalmologist. Optometry can be replaced, ophthalmology can be replaced by an optometrist, apart from doing the treatment, because it's that unique a specialty. Unless you do your KAP or whatever the communication attitude and the knowledge, you will not get that due respect. You do that, you automatically get the due respect in the society to be an independent professional without depending on any other medical fraternity. So you want to do that, develop this. Objectives is basically to evaluate the variables such as spectacle power, patient age and visual demands, challenges in spectacle adaptation, and utilizing the techniques to identify what prescription to give. So now, when the patient comes to you or clinic with the glass, whatever he has got, how do you identify whether to change the glass or not to change the glass? First principle, whenever the patient comes with the glass, he might have just come to see whether if everything is okay. If that is the case, don't change the glass. Because if you create a problem after changing the glass, he will never come to you again. First identify, is he comfortable with the glass? Ask him whether you are comfortable with the glass. Then he says, I am comfortable with the glass. Allow him to be with the glass. Nobody has got the targets to change increase the number of spectacle prescriptions. Let him be comfortable with his glass. Now he will say, whether do I need a change? Then he will open the Pandora's box. Then you start your experiment whether you have to change the glass or not. Or he may say, this glass has got little scratches or it has worn out or the frame has been broken. Then you start your experiment of whether that person requires a change of glass or not. Most of the times, patients like his glasses. Idu nanna tandeavaru tegisicotta glass, akka tegisicotta glass. They have an emotional attachment with the glass also. So don't disregard that particular emotional attachment. Let them use that particular glass. If he says that he is not comfortable, then only decide to change the glass. If there is a small change in the prescription, then suggest the change. Don't suggest to change the glasses immediately. Just suggest the change. These things are all learnt with this lot of experience. This is not given in any books. That's why patient comes back to an experienced ophthalmologist too, despite the refraction being done absolutely normally. If there is a small change, suggest that particular change. Don't suggest to change the glass. Leave the ball again in the patient's court, whether he has to decide to change the glass or not. If that is the case, then narrate that particular change. You can tell, Ratri enadru drishti kadime kaantada nimge? Or do you think that you feel that difficulty in reading very small prints? Demonstrate that particular change by putting the appropriate subjective refraction, and then ನೋಡಿ ಈ ಥರ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಇರಬಹುದು. Suggest that particular change, and if he is still willing to change, then give the prescription. Some patients are very, very sensitive, like a touch me not patients. Even if they change a 0.25 prescription, I don't know, you put a 0.25 in front of your eye, nothing changes much. maybe a minus 0.25 or a plus 0.25. But there are a group of patients wherein if you change a 0.25 prescription, patients are extremely unhappy. So whenever you are doing something with that group of patients, be a little more careful. When you have an incidence that the patient has an esotropia, a pediatric patient, where the patient says, my vision is good and things like that, there comes your role. You tell them that, see, the eyes are deviated, the child has got a plus power, it's a refractive accommodative esotropia, you change the glasses, this esotropia would get better, therefore there is a medical role to change the glasses. Then suggest rather than the business role of changing the glass. Reducing the minus power for myope. Myopes, there is a general principle that we always undercorrect myopia. Do you all agree with me? Whenever we give a prescription, we always have a habit that we undercorrect the myopia so that it does not over-accommodate. We undercorrect the myopia. There is a small rule to be remembered in an undercorrection of a myopia. If he is wearing already an overcorrected power, like for example, you have got a minus 2.5 refraction, you have got a minus 2.5 refraction, and the person is already wearing a 3 power, and he is very comfortable, then do not suggest a change, because he is used to seeing that particular clarity of vision. Let him remain with that vision unless he has got an asthenopic symptoms of wearing an overcorrected power. Do not change the power unless he is complaining. Whenever you change the power for distance, for example, you have a plus 2 power for distance, the plus 2 power you are changing to about maybe sometimes 1.25 or something like that, the distance correction would always get corrected. Whereas the near power he would have already been N6 with the plus 2. So you have corrected to 1.25, but the near component, do not forget, you will have to give him the same near correction like before whatever he has got to attain that N6. So always recheck on the near vision. As I've told you, he has got a minus 3 power and 3.5 power in the right and the left eye. The subjective refraction you have got is about 2.5 and 2.75. He is comfortable with the 3 and 3.5. Do not change the power. Let him remain with that power unless he has got an asthenopic symptom. He will come back to you if you change. He will say that my newer glasses I am not able to see clearly. So you will change only when the patient has symptoms of over-accommodation. Similarly, the wearing power of the person is minus 3 and minus 3.25 with the 0.5 and 0.75 cylinder. Now you have corrected, given a near add of 1.75. The subjective refraction you have got is 3.5, with a little over myopia. Now, with 1.75 he was N6. So make sure when you are increasing the myopic power, at the same time you also increase the near power also so that he remains N6. Otherwise he will complain of near vision issues. Whenever you are correcting myopia or hypermetropia, what is this test? It is readily available on most of the refraction charts, as well as the charts which you have, the older style illuminated charts. So do this particular test. In this particular test, whenever you ask the patient if he sees, do not ask him whether he can see it clearly. No, that is not the way you should ask. You should ask him which letter is appearing more darker. That is how you ask. Okay? So you balance the red and the green so that he is given an emmetropic kind of a prescription. Whenever you change a prescription power of more than 1 diopter, be very careful, recheck, and if required, give it in a staged manner. If there is a sudden jump in the refraction, particularly plus powers, the patient may not accept that particular change immediately. You can always look for a staged kind of a prescription pattern. Be also careful with an asymmetric power changes. Supposedly, if you have right and left, if at all, if you have a variation in the power change, be very careful, particularly when you are giving the prescription. Be careful of the cylinders. Prescription changes more than 0.5 cylinders. Always relook into it, try to give it in a staged fashion. Whenever you are giving high astigmatism and the first time glass prescription, always look for the spherical equivalent and also look at the visual acuity. Be sure to consider the spherical power whenever making the changes to the cylindrical power. So what is a spherical equivalent? Spherical equivalent is nothing but the total sphere plus half the cylinder. Like in this particular example, in a -3 and a -2 at 180, so what is the spherical equivalent? The total sphere is -3 and half the cylinder, -3 plus -1. So the spherical equivalent becomes -4. When there is a larger cylinder, you may not get away by giving only the spherical equivalent. You may have to give a small cylinder also. So you can do a partial correction for the spherical equivalent for the cylinder and give a small cylinder. Be very careful when you are changing the cylindrical axis. As a rule, even if you get by a subjective refraction a different kind of an axis, try to check whether the patient has got used to the existing axis. By and large, you will be surprised to see the patients will be adjusted to the particular axis which he was using. If the cylinder power is high, don't change it at all unless it is required. However, if at all, if you are planning to change, do not change more than 5 to 10 degrees. By and large, the patient would be using an axis of 90 or 180. So if at all, if you are deviating from 90 to 180, again be very careful, recheck and reconfirm and then prescribe. 0.25 spherical or cylindrical can always be an interobserval change. This is one advantage which we all have, that is trial framing. So whenever you are giving a prescription, before giving the prescription, you can always make the patient, if you are giving a newer prescription, change in the axis, change in the cylindrical power or drastic change in the spherical power, do trial framing, wherein you make the patient wear that particular glass, stay in the normal atmosphere wherever he is, normal environment wherever he is staying, and let him be comfortable with that particular prescription binocularly. So let him wear and see. So that if he is comfortable, whether he has got any asthenopic symptoms or whether he has got any headache, maybe for about 10 to 15 minutes he can wear with the particular trial frame, and then we can do what is called as trial framing, particularly simulating a real life scenario before he goes for a glass. At the end, whenever you are giving a spectacle to the patient, tell and educate. This goes a long way. Before handing over the prescription, you just try in about 5 to 10 patients, just giving a prescription and asking him to go. He will definitely come back saying that whatever you have done is wrong. Spending a little more time with the patient, educating the patient about the new prescription, like you have got a new power, you have got a new change in the cylinder, it may take some time for you to adapt to this new particular power. There is something called as an adaptation, wearing time, how long you should wear it for some time and then come back with the product, goes a longer way in understanding the patient. Also, try whenever you are doing, supposedly a patient walking into your OPD, you may just give him say 0.5 and you may feel that it is not required to wear that particular 0.5 at this point. Stress a small way to that particular patient. When you, supposedly it is a 0.5 for a 38-year-old. So what is the problem that the patient is likely to face in the days to come? Presbyopia, a 0.5 or a 0.75, he is entering that presbyopic age. So smaller note to the patient, you may be able to manage now, maybe in a day, in a year or more, you may need glasses for near. That patient is likely to come back to you and thank you for saying that, oh, you have told me that you may get a PAR, you were very right. There is a basic simple science there. You have already found that there is a small latent hypermetropia of about 0.5. You tell the patient that you are likely to develop a small power. This patient is very happy that you have predicted that this patient is likely to get the PAR. So his belief in you will be much more stronger. So always try to educate the patient on the prognosis of their refractive status. You can also always tell him that if you are undercorrecting a myope, you can always tell him, see, I have given you a little lesser power, your distance vision may be blurred, but you will never have headache with these glasses. Even if he can't see distance, he is very happy that he has not got headache. So, trying some educational point to the patient. You are likely to have a cataract. You put a retinoscopy reflex onto the eye, you can identify that this patient has got a cataract. You can just tell there itself. You may not need glasses, change of glasses, doctor will tell you, but mostly you can, I think you have got a small cataract. He's very happy, his respect for you goes up like anything. Just by shining the light, he was able to identify that there is a cataract. For a patient, a cataract is a big thing. It's not a small thing. For you and me, it may be a very small event. But for a patient, it's a lifetime event, once in a lifetime event. So, just by shining a light, an optometrist is able to identify a cataract. You may have a corneal condition like Dr. Kishore Krishna said, you may have a keratoconus. Just by shining a light, the optometrist has identified a keratoconus. Ophthalmologist had to do an op scan to identify a keratoconus. So, simple techniques, simple educative tools to the patient at the time of refraction goes a long way ahead. Always remember, in the hurry-burry of doing a good refraction, in the hurry-burry of doing an accurate refraction, do not forget the patient right and the patient preferences. Patient prefers sometimes to wear a lower plus power. For him, shifting from 1.5 near ad to 2 near ad is like a significant aging. Power ashtu jasti aita? Kaile unta kanninalli? This is the response what you get from the patient. So, stick to the patient preference. If he says that no, I am okay by managing my 1.5, I can still manage, let him stick to 1.5. He'll come back after a year, now that you have primed him for a +2. So patient preferences, patient rights always have to be respected whenever you give a prescription. Our responsibility as clinicians is to educate the patient, to provide them the options and suggest the recommendations by demonstrating them. I repeat it, our responsibility is to educate, provide them options, recommend by demonstrating. The choice is ultimately done by the patient. Whenever we prescribe in different age groups, there are certain norms which we need to follow. When we prescribe in children, our main aim is to prevent amblyopia, laziness in the eye. Here, adaptation is less issue because you just put the glasses, you give the accurate prescription, the adaptive child will adapt. Here, our concern is to prevent amblyopia. The amblyopigenic risk factors include, whenever there is an anisometropia, the difference between the two eye being in a hypermetrop 1.5, about 4 diopters in myopia, and about 1.5 diopter difference in the astigmatic powers. When the isometric powers, both the eyes are similar powers, when the power is more than 5 diopter in hyperopia, more than 8 diopter in myopia, and 2.5 diopter in astigmatism. Whenever you prescribe a myopic power in a child, you can always undercorrect significantly. If it is less than 2 diopters, you can leave the child without giving the glasses, because the child's predominant work thing is close by, particularly when the child is between 1 year or 1.5 to 2 years. As the child reaches the preschool or a school age group, that's when you need to correct the myopia optimally. Astigmatism behaves a little otherwise, because the child likely is to develop, if he has a defocus at the retina, is likely to develop amblyopia. So whatever less than 1.5 diopters, 1 to 1.5 diopters is the gray zone. But as the child is about 4 years, you try to correct predominantly 1 to 1.5 diopter power also. Children adapt to the refractive error, whatever correction you give, very beautifully, and the main risk there is amblyopia only. So you try to give an older child a full correction of an astigmatism, the child will never complain of a spatial distortion. However, whenever you are giving this particular full correction in an adult, the adult always complains of the spatial distortion. So whenever you are giving a higher cylinder, always give it in a staged fashion. Try to give the spherical equivalent, as I have told you earlier, and then slowly correct the astigmatism, and always try to give the astigmatic correction to the used to axis of the patient. In hyperopia, be a little more careful. See the magnitude of hyperopia. There is something called as a latent, there is something called as a manifest hyperopia. You need not correct the entire latent hypermetropia unless the patient has symptoms of asthenopia or headache or brow kind of a pain and things like that. Look for the presence of any esotropia and amblyopia, then you need to correct the entire hyperopia. Look for the state of the accommodation of the patient. Demands on visual symptoms, like what kind of a vision he is likely to say, particularly for near. A 38-year-old, you can always correct if he is symptomatic for a plus 0.75 and ask him to wear it continuously if he has got a plus 0.75 refraction. Whereas if a 38-year-old says that I have only a problem for near, then that plus 0.75 you can ask them to wear it only during the near vision tasks. So based on the patient symptoms, you can assess this particular status. A 10 to 40-year-old hyperopes, moderate hyperopias generally require a part-time correction. A high hyperopia always a full-time correction for the asthenopic symptoms. In between 30 to 40, they are more symptomatic, particularly for near. Then you can give either a constant wear or only the wear for near. The near vision issues, tired eyes, asthenopia and headache, correct with the near vision glasses or bifocal, particularly when they cross 40 age group. This is the biggest challenge, presbyopia. Presbyopia, we are always likely to give something like a progressive glasses. Don't go for it. Ask, based on the patient's need, give appropriate correction to the patient. Age is the best parameter to decide. We have a standard rule. At 40, what do we give? At 40? 45? Yes? 50? 55? 60? 65? Go home. Assess the patient's visual need. I have a patient who is 65-year-old who is still wearing a plus 1.5 for all his needs. Computer, reading, distance, everything in one single glass. He is fed up of progressives. Assess the patient's need. There is no dictum that a 60-year-old should be given plus 3. There is no dictum that a 50-year-old should be given plus 2. He may be happy with the 1.5. If he is happy with a 60-year-old, if he is happy with 1.5, if I give him plus 3, what is the major problem what we encounter? Yes? If somebody answers this question, I will close the class. A 60-year-old, everybody is enthusiastic to find out the answer. A 60-year-old who is very happy with using a plus 1.5 diopter glass, if I give him and force him say that no, my book Parsons or Khurana or Duke Elder says 60 means plus 3, you have to wear plus 3. What is the problem? Yes. Yes. You don't want me to, you know the answer and you don't want me to close the class. As you increase the plus power, patient's work becomes lesser. At 1.5, he will be able to see at this distance, as well as a little more far. Whereas as you decrease the power to plus 3, the range at which he can see, his working distance becomes fixed. And he has to hold it at this particular distance. These are all practical experiences which we have seen. This is the perfect example. I have similar photographs, 2-3 photographs. Who is the first photograph person? This one here? Yes? Goldsmith. This one here? Ganapati sir's favorite, watch repairer. Who is this? Who is this person? Who is this person here? And who is this person here? Each one of their visual needs are different. Jeweler's working distance is extremely nearby. You give him 2, he is unhappy. You give him 2.5, at 40 he is unhappy. You give him plus 3, he is unhappy. He needs higher power. A watch repairer needs a higher power because he is always accommodating. As against a priest. What does a priest do? Yes? They are never allowed to hold the book in their hand. Do you know that? They always have to rest the book on the table, as here. And what is the distance? You give him a plus 3, he'll throw the glass on your face. His working distance is much more. A person who is doing knitting, her working distance is different. As against the architect, he has to see from one corner of the board to the other corner. He has to draw a line. He has to see that part also. So his working distance is also different. A tall person, this is my new experience. See, refraction is a day-to-day experience. And it's always, at this stage also, I think sir also may agree, every day in a refraction, there is some learning point. Even after doing so many refractions and prescribing so many glasses. I had a person coming to my clinic who is double my size. Okay? What is the problem with the tall person? Can anyone tell me what is the problem with the tall person? They have got tall extremities, tall limbs. For him to read, he always has to fold his hands like this and read. He is never comfortable this way. He always wants to hold like this. So his working distance is more. A tall teacher always wants to see the child is writing properly or not. A tall teacher requires a lesser ad to see the near distance. Is it not? As against a short teacher who would want a smaller, higher power to see that. Therefore, Refraction is an art. It is not just a science. These things you will pick up as you see and understand the patient's visual needs. Some knowledge of ophthalmology is also required to see whether the patient has undergone a cataract surgery. One eye 2.5 ad, other eye 1.5 ad, early cataract surgery. Whether he is aphakic in one eye. One eye we have given a kind of a bifocal or a progressive, and other eye we have given a plano for balance. Whether he is in aphakic eye or whether he is a non-seeing eye. Does he have any corneal conditions? Is he likely to undergo a cataract surgery in the near future? So all these parameters, some knowledge of ophthalmology to see inside the eye is also required for an optometrist. The task dependent spectacle predominantly is the working distance dependent. And how do you calculate the working distance power? Generally 1 by so much meter gives you the dioptric power what is required. If the working distance is about 40 centimeters, you can give 1 by 0.4, it's 2.5 diopters. If a working distance is about 33 centimeter, then a 0.3, 1 divided by 0.3, the working distance becomes 3 diopters. Always remember the range what the patient wants to enjoy. Enjoy his clear vision. So, hold it at different distances. The optometrist straight away writes N6 at plus 2.75. You see most of the prescriptions outside in the optical shop plus 2.75 because he is 65. You see an ophthalmologist writing a prescription because he has to face the music, isn't it? So it will never cross a 2.5. It will never cross a 2.25. Anything above 2.5 is very careful in giving. So it is very important to assess the range of clarity of near vision which the patient wants to enjoy, based on which you give an appropriate near ad. You should also be aware of some knowledge about the various spectacle designs. Bifocal design, what do you mean by a bifocal? Distance clear, distance as well as a small cryptoc or an executive segment below. Patient may also want an intermediate for the top and near in a bifocal segment. Various types of progressive designs which may be a different scope altogether. You should also know something about a spectacle, how the alignment of the spectacle goes on with the eye. If there are 3 important aspects of a spectacle. One, apart from doing a proper centration in the center by marking the PD, there are various ways of marking the PD. Also look at a pantoscopic tilt. Recently, from a very good store, the patient has bought a very high, very costly kind of a glass. But patient is very unhappy for a monofocal. For a monofocal of about -6 diopters, patient is very, very unhappy, very unusual. All the prescription, everything is correct. But whenever he says, whenever I look down, I see everything distorted. Because the edge of the glass will act always like a prism, particularly in a higher power. You should adjust the appropriate pantoscopic tilt. Okay? So the pantoscopic tilt, how the glass should stand in front of your eye, that angle should always be looked into. There are so many terminologies in optometry and this optical dispensing, but these are a very few things which you should always be aware of. This is the pantoscopic tilt. There are a lot of non-optometry and ophthalmic people who are also shaking their heads because I think they have also faced the music of having an abnormal pantoscopic tilt. So this tilt here is very important for you to have a very good field of vision, particularly when you are looking down and when you are reading. Otherwise, despite you giving a very good and a normal prescription, the patient will still be unhappy. This is the wrap angle. So these terminologies and identifying these particular abnormalities are also equally important. Technical errors in terms of centration errors, in terms of incorrect powers, wrong prescriptions, segment height variations, lens chip at the edges. These are the things which you also should know as technically when you are seeing a particular glass. To conclude, key points to remember: everyone makes a mistake. So, do not deny that particular mistake whenever you see and glaringly identify that particular mistake. Whenever somebody comes to our center, whenever they say that, wrong prescription ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಿ, ಕಣ್ಣೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಗೆ ಹೀಗಾಗಿದೆ, he will start blaming everything. Even abdominal discomfort also he will blame for the wrong glasses. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಇದರಿಂದ ನಾನು 2 ದಿನದಿಂದ ಮೋಷನ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. So he will try to blame everything for the glass. That is how the mentality is. How do you ward off from this particular group of patients? Yes, can anybody suggest me how you can just ward off this particular group of patient? It's very simple sentence. One sentence is bold. He will never talk against you in his lifetime. How do you say that? He comes to your OPD and says, ಏನು ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರೆ ಗ್ಲಾಸೇ ಸರಿ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಿ ನೀವು, ಕಣ್ಣೆಲ್ಲ ತೆಗೆದುಬಿಟ್ರಿ. Yes, how do you do that? I think you might be facing, whenever you are going outside, when you will go to the optical shop and give the glasses, you will face this. What is the best way to ward off such patient? You try this, it works. Accept that his problem is true for a time being. ಹೌದಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಹಾಳಾಗಿದೆಯಾ, ಹಾಗೆ ಆಯಿತಾ, ಒಂದು ಸಲ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕೊಡಿ, ನನ್ನಿಂದ ಏನಾದರೂ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾನು ನೋಡ್ತೇನೆ. This sentence is enough. You have to show him courtesy and you have to tell him that you are concerned about his prescription, and you as a human being can also make a mistake. You just tell him, ಒಂದು ಸಲ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ನಾನು ರೀಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ, ನನ್ನಿಂದ ಏನಾದರೂ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆ ಹೇಳಿ ನೋಡ್ತೇನೆ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಸಾಕು. Then he is sure that you are a genuine person trying to help him. This one sentence will off-guard him and make him listen to you whatever he says, whatever you say. Always try to put the glasses on his face whenever you are dispensing, checking the vision, checking the near vision and things like that, so that he will, though you have checked earlier before giving it to him, always recheck on his face, have a couple of conversation whenever you are giving him the glasses. This is a long way to go because he is going to be your customer for getting the glasses from you forever. Apart from checking the glasses, like he described his bodily symptoms, overall comfortness check. One overall, ಎಲ್ಲ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದ್ದೀರಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿ, ಒಂದು ವರ್ಡ್ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಸಾಕು. He is your patient for your lifetime. We are here to establish a patient relationship, not to sell glasses. We are trying to make him see better. We are not here to sell glasses. That lens card people will do. That is their business. They have to do it. But as optometrists, our job is not to sell glasses. Our job is to give the right prescription and help the patient to make the right choice. If you understand this, you will become a good optometrist. Our job is to make the patient make the right choice. Then he will buy a glass worth 10,000 from wherever he wants, or 20,000 wherever he wants. But you help him make a right choice. He will remember you for your life. He will come back to you. If you are selling the glasses, he will come back and take the glasses from you. We are here to develop a relationship with the patient. So, the key message here at the end of this particular class is dispensing spectacles is an art, science, and a relation. Okay? It's a relation between the art and science, and you are developing a new relation with the person whenever you are dispensing the glass. I wish you all a very best future. You will have tremendous success in your career if you do a good optometry job. I am very confident. Today, optometry person can be involved in giving glasses, not only in giving glasses, making a business. He can be a good clinician. He has a role in good fundus screening, lot of gadgets. He can do a doctorate. He can do research. He can be a good research associate. He can be an administrative officer. He can conduct rural health camps. He can conduct city camps. He can do what not. He can do everything other than doing surgery. Maybe days may come wherein if you are technically competent enough, a person like Dr. Modi, he was an optometrist. Person like Dr. Modi was an optometrist who has been a Padma Bhushan. So there are days to come wherein your life is going to have a significant impact on this particular optometry field. So be prepared, be geared up. So I wish you all the best in the future. Thank you. Any queries? Any questions? Any questions? It can be any silly questions, no problem. Happy to answer. Yes? Questions? Yes? I have threatened a couple of students that I will ask them questions. So they are not to be seen at all.
Sir, thank you very much for explaining the thing so beautifully, and you have really explained it. It was so crystal clear.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge on the topic with us and enlightening us. We are sincerely grateful to you for taking time from your busy schedule and being a part of this event.
May I now request Professor Geeta Lakshmi, Vice Principal, Mangala College of Allied Health Sciences and Paramedical Sciences, to hand over the token of gratitude to Dr. Sripathi Kamath B.